So let's carry on talking about Keir Starmer, his natal chart. There's a part 1 to this where I've been reviewing his natal chart, which you'll see here. The other thing I wanted to focus on is his Sun conjunct Pluto opposite Jupiter, because this does give a desire for great wealth and power. It's quite autocratic, and there's a lack of humility leading to his downfall. There's a lack of empathy within him. He's kind of person that once he's sold on some idea, he just keeps going and doesn't know when to stop and doesn't know when to back down. So I think it's kind of suspicious that he was sort of coming out and saying, what was his quote? Oh, we don't want to be a land full of strangers. That's just his spin doctors telling him to say something to appease people. There's no way that there's a change in policy or anything like that. That's just pure the Libran side of him telling people what they want to hear, because he can't do that. Mercury, Venus in Libra, Moon in Libra, he is quite okay with just sugarcoating and telling people what they want to hear if it gives a short-term result. He can sell something and he can be very persuasive, but not necessarily honest. Mars in Cancer, he's never revealing his true intent. He's always sort of smoothing the way, manipulating, laying the right kind of ground, getting people in the right mood, and then bringing on what he wants to bring on. We saw he did that throughout the campaign. He lied about energy prices. He lied about, council tax not going up. Everything was thrown in the bin afterwards, and he didn't care, because like I say, there's a lack of accountability with this guy. The ends justify the means, and he feels like he's on some sort of divine mission. And I just want to read from some notes here about Jupiter opposite Pluto, and it says that people like this love indoctrinating others. They love to force their views, their opinions, their ideals on others, and they almost feel it's like their responsibility to force their ideas, whether it's political or spiritual, on others. That's why he's unlikely to be changing any ideas. Not that it's his ideas, because of course Larry Fink, all these people are pulling the strings, right? Ambition is often manifested in either a material or spiritual way, and the desire for importance stands over above anything else, including harmonious relationships with others. Now, is there anything else there that I should say? Yeah. Now, what I find interesting when we look at Mars in Cancer, Neptune in Scorpio, and Jupiter retrograde in Pisces is a massive fantasy life. Now, I know there have been all these rumors, like first of all, there were rumors of why he was renting Lord Ali's place in Soho. Lord Ali is well known as being a homosexual, wealthy, blah, blah, blah. Why would he be staying in his house? He said it was because his kids were trying to learn for the exams and they'd be disrupted sort of by staying at their normal home. That was the excuse. But then again, people said, well, they weren't even staying there during the period of the exams. Then there were other rumors swirling about he had a love child with a woman. So it's going both ways. Like, well, which is it? We don't really know. It's all about rumors. But what's been interesting is despite these very curious attacks on his property by these unlikely suspects who are basically just sort of grifters in the modeling industry, masseuse industry, whatever, the press haven't had a word to say. It's almost like there's a D notice out that no one's allowed to mention it, right, or talk about it. So that's really odd. But with those placements, I do feel he needs this release valve. There's this intense craving within him. He's got a heavy desire within him to have pleasure. And the pressure that he's having in the political world and all that stuff fulfills him on a power level, but there's a whole secret side to his life. So there's a whole secret, fantasy, exotic side to his personality, to his life. He has got loads of secrets, loads that he's covering up. I mean, okay, loads of people do. But I do think those placements definitely represent that there's a whole other side to him that we never expect. That's quite exotic. Now, let's just talk about the transits, and it's very interesting. I actually want to talk about the solar arcs first because they are incredible. So solar arc Mars is exactly conjunct his Sun conjunct Pluto. So that's really... So what is that telling us? It's telling us that, well, there's a threat in another, or maybe a physical threat, a political threat. Perhaps these firebomb attacks are trying to telegraph a message to him that he's got to keep to a certain path. Who knows? But it is an incredibly intense transit. There's a lot of pressure there. There's a huge amount that he's trying to accomplish in a short time. And it definitely shows that he is well, it's not having an easy time. There are so many forces that he's working against, and obviously the pressure from maybe reform. It's not all going well with him, and people are breathing down his neck. And I think he's scared to go this way, that way. He doesn't know which way to go. So there's a pressure cooker building up with him. What we also have, which was very interesting, is progressed Sun and Pluto exactly conjunct Neptune in Scorpio. Neptune being in Scorpio, being this kind of mysterious hidden side of his personality. But Sun conjunct Neptune often indicates a fall from grace, a fall from power, scandal, political scandal, and definitely a loss of control of the narrative. So could he be losing control? Is he desperately grappling to maintain things, to maintain control, to keep in this position, or to follow the orders he's been given? I just found those transits quite interesting. Sorry, those are the solar arcs. And if you look at the transits for next year, particularly during May, because this is the time when local elections happen, and we wonder, could there actually be a general election called next year? Well, I wonder in the UK chart, it seems almost possible. I mean, obviously, it's unlikely from a political point of view because this government has a long time to go and they have a so-called big majority, although only, a fifth of people voted for them because of the way the system works. They have an enormous amount of seats. But, it could come to the point where some Labour politicians start quitting, crossing the floor, joining another party, joining a new Muslim party that starts, some joining Reform just to hold on to their seats because they can see their political careers going up in smoke. Maybe Angela Rayner is going to perform some sort of coup on Keir and it's going to destabilize the government. We don't know. We still got this Pluto conjunct Pluto opposite Jupiter coming at the end of the year, which could mean some sort of shift in power. Could mean Charles steps down and William takes over, but it also could be some crisis for Keir. Now, it seems it could be because Neptune, which is going through Aries, is going to be opposite his Mercury in Libra. That seems to be a stab in the back, some sort of coordinated effort against him, people giving him misinformation, making him look stupid, sort of controversial information coming out about him. I mean, Neptune opposite his Mercury is really not good for him, communicating and maintaining the narrative. Plus, Saturn is also going to be opposed his Mercury in Libra, bringing huge amounts of mental and physical stress. Could he step down because he's sort of feeling a mental breakdown or something? Would he do that? There's all sorts of interesting possibilities, but I do think the pressure is piling on Sir Keir. I think there's definitely potential for scandal and for a lot more to come out. Perhaps there's an avalanche of things that have been building up, that have been suppressed, that will eventually come out if they decide he has to go. And so a new sort of, we'll go into some new phase of Labour, but really there really is no one credible below him. I mean, Reeves hated as well through her being the Chancellor. I mean, she's surpassed anything they could have claimed Liz Truss was doing to the economy. Obviously, Angela Rayner has got no credibility. David Lammy, he's got his own scandals. The recent thing with not paying the taxi, £600. I mean, he's a bit of a buffoon. So we do know that Wes Streeting has been angling for the job. Could be. Anything could happen. I think it's going to get more and more interesting in terms of Keir and UK politics getting far more febrile, controversial, more scandals coming out, more by-elections because of scandals with MPs, therefore more seats falling to Reform, MPs beginning to cross the aisle and join Reform, a huge crescendo building up to December. And perhaps this is the year when Keir just has to step down. There's just too much trouble going on and he can't keep a lid anymore on this pressure cooker.